My brother was hanging his football jersey over my daughter's bedroom door while my family clapped for him in my own apartment. The door was still open behind me. Grocery bags cut into my fingers. My daughter's pink backpack hung from one shoulder. Around my dining table sat my mother, my father, my Aunt Linda, my cousin Marcia, my brother's wife Kelly, and two neighbors from upstairs who had clearly been invited to witness the moment. 5 faces turned toward me, then away from me, as if looking too long would make them responsible. Ryan stood in the doorway of Sophie's room with a hammer in one hand and my spare key swinging from the other. The bedspread I had bought for her 7th birthday was folded on the floor. Her drawings had been pulled from the wall and stacked beside a trash bag. "Don't make that face, Natalie," he said, smiling at everyone before looking back at me. "You were always temporary here. A single woman doesn't need a 2-bedroom when my family finally needs a fresh start." Kelly touched her stomach, even though she was only 3 months pregnant and had spent all week posting vacation photos from Palm Springs. My mother looked down at her paper plate. My father cleared his throat and pretended to study the carpet. Aunt Linda whispered, "Oh my God," but not loudly enough to defend me. I set the grocery bags on the counter before my hands started shaking. "This is Sophie's room," I said. Ryan laughed like I had made a small, embarrassing joke. It was Sophie's room. "Mom said you'd understand once you calmed down." My daughter moved closer to my side. She did not cry. That made it worse. She stared at the place where her watercolor moon used to hang, then tucked both hands into the sleeves of her hoodie like she could make herself smaller. I looked at my mother. "You let him move in while I was at work?" She pressed her lips together and spoke in the soft voice she used when she wanted cruelty to sound like wisdom. "Your brother has a baby coming. You have to stop acting like every inconvenience is an attack." The upstairs neighbors pretended to sip lemonade. Marcia crossed her arms. My father kept staring at the carpet. I reached into my purse, felt the edge of the blue folder inside, and let my fingers rest on it for 1 second. Then I said calmly, "Ryan, don't touch the folder by the sink." He glanced at the blue folder sitting under the mail tray, then smirked. "What is it? Another list of bills you think makes you important?" "No," I said. "It is something you should have asked about before you brought witnesses." Nobody understood what I meant. That was fine. For the first time that evening, I did not need them to. Ryan had not just carried a box into my apartment. He had walked into the last place I had built with my own hands and announced that my life was movable. The dining table he was leaning on had come from a thrift store after my divorce. The curtains in the living room were the first new thing I bought after years of choosing groceries over comfort. The second bedroom was where Sophie learned to sleep with the door closed again, because no one yelled after midnight here. My family knew that. They had watched me make this place from nothing. They had eaten soup here when my father's heat was shut off. My mother had slept on this couch after her knee surgery. Ryan had borrowed my car from this very parking lot when his truck was repossessed and had returned it with no gas and a dent he called barely noticeable. Now he stood in Sophie's doorway, pretending the apartment had always been a spare room waiting for him. "Take your groceries," he said. "Kelly already made space for your things in the hall closet until you figure out where you're going." The room went so quiet I heard the refrigerator hum. I looked at him. "You made space for my things in my own hall closet?" "It's not your own anything if the family needs it more," my mother said, still not meeting my eyes. "We talked about this. You're difficult when surprised, so we decided it was better to act first." There it was. Not an accident. Not a misunderstanding. A plan. My Aunt Linda finally spoke. "Denise, did Natalie agree to this?" My mother gave her the look that had trained our family for decades. "Natalie always agrees eventually." Ryan grinned at that. It was the most honest thing anyone had said all evening. I took Sophie's backpack from her shoulder and placed it beside the front door. "Sophie, go wait by Mrs. Coleman's door for a minute." My mother's head snapped up. "Do not drag that child into drama." I kept my voice even. "I'm taking her out of it." Sophie hesitated, her eyes moving from me to her uncle. Ryan gave her the fake generous smile he used around strangers. "Don't worry, kiddo. Uncle Ryan will keep your old room nice." Sophie did not answer him. She walked into the hallway, and Mrs. Coleman from 3B, who had been watching through her cracked door, opened it wider with a face full of sympathy and guilt. When Sophie was safely inside, I turned back. "Where are my boxes?" I asked. Ryan shrugged. "Storage closet downstairs. Most of your stuff was clutter anyway." "Most of my stuff," I repeated. "Nat," my father said weakly. "Let's not make this ugly." I almost smiled. He said that every time someone else made it ugly first. I walked past them into Sophie's room. Ryan had shoved her books into a laundry basket. Her nightlight was unplugged. Her framed photo from the school science fair was face down on the desk. On the bed, Kelly had already placed 2 throw pillows with gold stitching that read "Blessed Home" and "New Chapter." I picked up Sophie's nightlight and put it in my purse. Kelly appeared behind me. "I know this is emotional for you, but Ryan and I really need stability now." I turned slowly. Sophie needed stability when I came here with 2 suitcases and a child who flinched every time someone slammed a cabinet. Kelly blinked, uncomfortable for 1 second, then recovered. "That was years ago." 3, I said. "It was 3 years ago." Ryan leaned on the doorframe. "And in 3 years you still haven't become less dramatic." That line was for the room. He wanted witnesses to remember me as unstable before I said anything serious. My mother had already primed them. I could see it in the careful faces, in the way Marcia watched me like she was waiting for a scene she could repeat later. So I did not give them one. I walked to the kitchen, lifted the blue folder and tucked it under my arm. Ryan's smile dropped a fraction. "I thought I told you not to make this about paperwork." "You told me a lot of things," I said. "That was your mistake." Then I opened the front door, called Sophie from Mrs. Coleman's apartment, and left with only her backpack, her nightlight, the blue folder, and every eye in that room following me as if the quiet was the strange part. In the parking lot, Sophie climbed into the passenger seat and held the nightlight in both hands. "Are we homeless?" she asked. The question landed harder than anything my brother had said. "No," I said. "We are not homeless." She looked back at the building. Through the second-floor window, I could see Ryan moving in front of the blinds, enjoying the shape of a home he had not earned. "Are we going to Grandma's?" Sophie asked. "No." "Where are we going?" I started the car, pulled the blue folder onto my lap, and touched the top page through the cover. "Somewhere he does not have a key." 3 weeks earlier, I had found the first clue in my mother's purse. It was not dramatic. It was not hidden in a drawer or taped behind a picture frame. It was a folded list sticking halfway out of her church bulletin while she sat at my kitchen table drinking coffee I had made. At the top she had written, in her neat round handwriting, "Natalie, move! Out plan!" Under it were boxes to check. Ask building about extra key. Find out lease date. Make Ryan look responsible. Talk to Dad first. Keep Sophie with us if Natalie argues. I had stood at the sink with my back to her, holding a wet mug, while my pulse moved up into my throat. My mother was telling me about Kelly's prenatal vitamins at the time. Her voice was light, practical, and full of the ordinary intimacy that still fooled me after all these years. When she went to the bathroom, I took one photo of the list with my phone and put it back exactly where it had been. That was my first proof. A single photo of her plan, clear enough to read, ugly enough to hurt. After that, I stopped trusting accidents. Ryan called twice that week asking what time I left for work. My father asked whether my building still had cameras in the hallway. Kelly texted me a photo of nursery paint samples with the message, "Which one would look best with afternoon light?" When I replied, "For whose nursery?" she sent a laughing emoji and wrote, "Just dreaming." I did not confront them. I called my landlord, Mr. Alvarez. "I need to ask something unusual," I said. He listened while I explained as much as I could without crying. When I finished, he said, "Natalie, your brother cannot take over your apartment because your mother thinks he should." "I know," I said. "But I also know my family. If I fight them inside that apartment, they will turn it into a war in front of Sophie." There was a pause. Then he said, Unit 1C is opening next week. Unit 1C was smaller, cheaper, and faced the courtyard instead of the street. It had only one bedroom, but it was in the same school zone. It had a window that looked out over the little garden where Sophie liked to read. The old me would have seen it as a loss. The woman standing at the sink with a photo of her mother's plan in her phone saw it as a door. Mr. Alvarez sent me a transfer notice. Plain words. No courtroom language. It said I was moving my tenancy from 2A to 1C on Friday, and that all access connected to 2A would end after that. I signed it, scanned it, and brought the original to his office before work. The apartment was still mine until Friday. After Friday, it would belong to the building again. Already promised to a nurse named Priya who had been waiting months for a second bedroom near the hospital. The family did not know that. Mr. Alvarez arranged for the maintenance man to help me move the important boxes downstairs to 1C while Ryan thought I was at work. I bought Sophie a new bedspread with tiny stars on it and told her we were making a smaller, safer home. She asked if Grandma was coming. I said no. The day Ryan moved in, he did not break into an empty trap. He walked into a shell he mistook for victory. That was his habit. He never noticed the work inside a thing, only the usefulness of taking it. After I left that night, the family group chat exploded. My mother wrote first, "You embarrassed us in front of people who came to support Ryan." Ryan followed, "You walked out on family because you hate seeing me happy." Kelly wrote, "I hope Sophie does not learn this selfishness from you." Then my father, after 15 silent minutes, typed, "Come back tomorrow and talk like an adult." My phone lit again. It was a private message from Ryan. "If you make this difficult, Mom and Dad will tell everyone you abandoned us. They will say you took Sophie away because you are unstable. Nobody will believe your version over the whole family." I stared at that message for a long time. Then I took a screenshot and added it to the same folder as the photo of my mother's list. That was my second proof. On Monday morning, Ryan posted a smiling photo from my old living room. He stood beside Kelly, one arm around her waist, with my curtains behind them and my thrift store table covered in muffins. The caption read, "So grateful for family who make room when it matters. New home. New baby. New chapter." My mother commented first, "God provides through generous hearts." I had not given him my home. I had not offered one generous word. But the story looked better that way. And Ryan had always been good at posing in front of other people's sacrifices. By noon, I had messages from relatives I had not seen in years. "Your brother really needed this. Proud of you for finally putting family first. Your mother says you are struggling emotionally. Praying for peace." That was the social smear, wrapped in prayers and heart emojis. They needed me to be unstable because stable people are harder to rob. By Wednesday, Ryan had renamed the Wi-Fi, changed the shower curtain, and told 3 people that I had downsized for mental health reasons. Kelly sent me a message asking where I kept the extra sheets. I replied with one sentence, "Ask the tenant." She sent back a question mark. I did not explain. That evening, Mrs. Coleman knocked on my new door with a covered dish and her phone in her hand. "I should have said something," she told me. "You opened your door for Sophie." I said, "That was something." She shook her head. "No, I mean before. Your mother came last week with Ryan. They told me you were moving to your parents' place because you could not manage alone. They said they were trying to keep the apartment in the family." I felt the old familiar ache behind my ribs. The part that still hoped my mother would stop 1 inch before unforgivable. Mrs. Coleman unlocked her phone. The building camera caught them carrying boxes up Saturday morning. "Ryan was telling the movers to hurry before you got back." Mr. Alvarez sent me the clip because he thought maybe I had ordered furniture and the movers were at the wrong door. She showed me the hallway video. There was my mother, standing beside my front door with my spare key, smiling as Ryan directed 2 men with plastic bins. Kelly held a framed sign that said, "Home Sweet Home." My father stood back near the elevator, uncomfortable but present. The timestamp was 10:42 a.m. While I was at the clinic with Sophie for an inhaler refill, I watched my mother turn to the camera and say, "Quickly, before she gets dramatic." Mrs. Coleman looked like she wanted to apologize for the whole world. Can you send that to me? I asked. Yes, that was my third proof. The visible one. The one no prayer emoji could soften. By Thursday, the pressure changed shape. Ryan stopped pretending to be grateful and started acting like a man guarding stolen ground. He called from my old number because he had plugged in my landline without asking. You need to sign a simple letter saying you transferred the apartment to me, he said. I did not transfer the apartment to you. Don't be technical. Same idea. No, Ryan. Not the same idea. He lowered his voice. Mom is sick over this. Dad's blood pressure is up. You always do this. You make everyone pay for your moods. I am not signing anything for you, I said. You are going to look terrible when people find out you are making a pregnant woman homeless. You moved into an apartment without permission. Family does not need permission. That sentence told me everything. He did not think he was stealing. He thought I was refusing to continue being useful. The next day was Friday, the effective date on the transfer notice. At noon, my access to 2A ended. At 12:01, Ryan's borrowed key still opened the lock because old metal keys do not understand paperwork. But the building did. The gate code, package lockers, laundry room app, parking pass, and community room reservation system all shifted away from my old unit. I knew because Mr. Alvarez called me. Your transfer is complete, he said. You and Sophie are officially in 1C. Thank you. There is one more thing. Your brother came to the office this morning asking when we would put his name on 2A. I closed my eyes. What did you tell him? That he would need to apply like any other person, and that the unit is not available. And? He said his sister promised him the apartment. I did not. I know, Mr. Alvarez said. I have your transfer notice. Plain. Simple. Clean. The apartment could not become Ryan's because I had already transferred out of it. And once my notice was accepted, he had no claim through me. That was the whole structure. No dramatic law, no courtroom, no chain of technical language. The building recognized the person on the file, and I had moved that file before he moved his boxes. Ryan did not understand it yet because he had never respected systems he could not bully. He thought every rule was just another person waiting to be worn down. That afternoon he sent a family-wide message. Housewarming Sunday at our new place. Natalie may be cold right now, but we are choosing grace. Come celebrate the baby and the home Mom helped make possible. Then he added the address. My old address. My mother responded with 3 hearts. Aunt Linda responded. Is Natalie okay with this? Ryan wrote. She gave us the apartment and now wants attention. We are not feeding drama. I watched the message sit there. Then, for the first time in days, I typed. I will come Sunday. The chat went silent so quickly it almost made me laugh. Ryan replied privately 10 seconds later. Do not come if you plan to embarrass us. I wrote back. You invited the family. He did not answer. On Saturday, my father came to 1C. Your mother says you are punishing Ryan, he said. I leaned against the doorframe. Did you come to ask me what happened? Or did you come to repeat what she said? I thought you agreed, he said. No, Dad. You did not think that. You hoped not knowing would make you innocent. His eyes dropped. I opened the blue folder and handed him a copy of my mother's list. He read it twice. His mouth tightened at keep Sophie with us if Natalie argues. Then I showed him Ryan's private message about calling me unstable. Last, I played the hallway clip. My mother's voice came through clearly. Quickly. Before she gets dramatic. My father sat down on the step outside my door. For a minute, he did not defend her. That was new. I didn't know about Sophie, he said. You stood by the elevator. I thought they were just moving a few things in before talking to you. I looked at him until he stopped trying to make that sound reasonable. He rubbed both hands over his face. Your brother said he was desperate. Ryan is always desperate when someone else has something he wants. The words came out colder than I expected, but not louder. My father nodded once. Like he had been waiting years for someone to say it in a way he could not deny. Do you need money? He asked. I almost laughed then. Not because it was funny, but because it was too late for the first question that should have come first. No, I said. But you should ask Ryan that before Sunday. He looked up. Why? Because a housewarming is expensive when you do not actually have a house. Sunday came bright and windy. Ryan had tried to make the apartment look like a victory before noon. Balloons were tied to the balcony rail. A paper banner hung across my old living room window. Welcome, Baby Harper. He and Kelly had announced the baby's name before the ultrasound, because Ryan believed declarations made things real. I arrived with Sophie at 1 o'clock, carrying no gift. The room noticed immediately. Conversation thinned. Aunt Linda gave me a small, nervous nod. Marcia looked from me to my mother, trying to decide which expression would age better in retelling. Kelly's smile hardened. Ryan walked toward me with his arms open, performing forgiveness for the room. There she is, he said. My dramatic little sister. We saved you a plate, even after everything. Sophie's hand tightened around mine. I said, we won't stay long. My mother stepped forward. Natalie, today is not about you. No, I said. It is about the apartment. A murmur moved through the room. Ryan laughed sharply. See? This is exactly what I told everyone. She cannot let anyone else have a moment. Kelly put one hand on her stomach. Please don't stress me out in my own home. Before I could answer, someone knocked on the open doorframe. Mr. Alvarez stood there in a navy jacket, holding a clipboard. Behind him was Priya, the nurse who had been waiting for 2A, and the maintenance man with a tool belt. Mrs. Coleman hovered in the hallway, not pretending not to watch. Ryan's face changed first into annoyance, then into command. This is a private family event. Mr. Alvarez looked past him at the crowded room. It is also a unit scheduled for turnover inspection. My mother smiled tightly. There must be some confusion. My son lives here now. No, Mr. Alvarez said. One word. Clean enough to cut the room open. Ryan stepped forward. Natalie gave me the apartment. Mr. Alvarez turned to me. Did you? Every face shifted toward me. This was the moment they had expected me to sputter, cry, explain too much, or look guilty for not being generous enough. I kept my hand around Sophie's. No, I said. Mr. Alvarez nodded and lifted the clipboard. The transfer notice was signed and accepted before any of this move. In. Natalie is now in Unit 1. C. Unit 2. A returns to building control for the next approved tenant. Kelly whispered. Ryan? Ryan turned on me. You set me up. No, I said. You moved in without asking. He pointed at the clipboard. That paper does not matter. We are already here. Mr. Alvarez's voice stayed flat. Being inside a unit does not make you the tenant. Aunt Linda said very softly. Ryan, you told us your name was being added. Ryan spun toward her. Stay out of this. But that was the wrong tone to use in front of witnesses, who were already rethinking their silence. Marcia frowned. You said Natalie offered it. She did. My mother snapped. I opened the blue folder and took out only one page. Not the whole stack. Not the list. Not the messages. The room did not need a trial. It needed one fact. This is the transfer notice, I said. It moved my lease to 1C before Ryan brought boxes here. That means this apartment was never his to take through me. Mr. Alvarez read the date aloud. Thursday, signed. Accepted Friday. Effective Friday at noon. Ryan's jaw worked. Mom said you would come around. My mother's pearls shifted as her throat moved. Natalie was supposed to think about the baby. The baby has parents, Aunt Linda said. It was the first clear line anyone in my family had spoken for me in years. Kelly looked at Ryan with panic rising through her makeup. Where are we supposed to go? Mr. Alvarez answered before I had to. You need to remove your belongings. Anything left after the posted deadline will be handled by building policy. You are not approved residents. Ryan reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. Fine. I'll pay the application fee right now. Put us on the lease. Mr. Alvarez shook his head. This unit is already assigned. Priya lifted one hand awkwardly. I signed for it last week. The room went still. Ryan looked at her like she had personally stolen something from him. The next tenant, she said. Simple facts kept interrupting him. He had no defense against them. Kelly hurried to the kitchen counter, where a stack of catering trays sat half open. Ryan, the community room. We can move the party downstairs and talk. Ryan seized on that. Yes. Everyone, downstairs. This is ridiculous. We are not doing this in front of strangers. He pushed past Mr. Alvarez toward the elevator with a handful of relatives following uncertainly. My mother lifted her chin and walked after him, as if posture could still control the narrative. The rest of us followed because collapse has a gravity of its own. Downstairs, Ryan punched the door code to the community room. The keypad flashed red. He tried again. Rel, a cousin muttered. Is that the right code? It is the code Natalie gave me, Ryan snapped. I had not given him any code. He had taken an old one from a paper taped inside my junk drawer. Mr. Alvarez stepped beside him. Access for Unit 2A ended Friday at noon. The reservation connected to Natalie's old account was canceled automatically after the transfer. Ryan's face flushed. Then charge my card. The maintenance man, trying not to look involved, checked the tablet. Card on file was declined for the damage deposit. A sound moved through the hallway. Not loud. Worse than loud. A collective breath of people realizing the ground under Ryan was not ground. Kelly stared at him. Declined? It is the bank, he said. They froze something. Marcia whispered to Aunt Linda. He told us the job started Monday. My father closed his eyes. Ryan turned toward the group, still trying to hold the room with volume. Everyone stop acting like this is a big deal. Natalie is doing this because she is bitter. She has always hated when I get help. Before anyone could answer, Mrs. Coleman stepped out from the mail area. She held her phone with both hands. I saw the video, she said. My mother stiffened. This does not concern you. It concerned me when Sophie was standing in the hallway asking if she was homeless. The hallway fell silent around that. Even the elevator doors opened and closed with nobody stepping out. Ryan tried to speak over her. That is not what happened. Mrs. Coleman looked at Aunt Linda, at Marcia, at my father, at every person who had chosen the easier story. They moved boxes in before Natalie got home. Denise said, quickly before she gets dramatic. That is on the hallway camera. My mother's face went pale in patches. Aunt Linda turned to her. You said Natalie surprised everyone by leaving. My mother opened her mouth, but no soft voice came out. Kelly took one step away from Ryan. It was small, but the whole hallway saw it. Mr. Alvarez slid his tablet under his arm. The party cannot move into the community room. Unit 2A must be cleared. The next tenant needs access for inspection. The visible pieces fell one after another. The door code failed. The reservation was canceled. The card was declined. A witness changed sides. A supporter questioned the lie. Ryan tried to speak, and a simple fact interrupted him each time. He looked at me then, not with apology, but with the raw anger of a man discovering the person he dismissed had already stepped out of reach. You would really do this to your own brother? He said. I looked at Sophie. Her hand was no longer trembling. Then I looked back at him. I did not do this to you. I stopped you from doing it to us. For once, nobody softened the sentence for him. By sunset, Ryan's balloons were sagging in the trash room. The moving truck he had canceled early had to be called back at weekend rates. The catering trays went cold on the counter, while relatives carried boxes down in embarrassed silence. Kelly sat in her car crying into her phone. Not because she had suddenly loved me, but because Ryan's confidence had finally cost her something she could feel. My mother tried twice to pull me aside. Both times I said, not here. My father helped carry Sophie's books from the storage closet to 1C. He did not ask for forgiveness. He did not make speeches. He placed the laundry basket on the floor, saw the science fair photo on top, and picked it up carefully. This should not have been face down, he said. No, I said. It should not have. He wiped the dust from the frame with his sleeve and set it on Sophie's little table by the window. That was the closest he came to saying what he knew. It was enough for that day. A week later, Priya moved into 2A. I saw her in the hallway carrying a box of books, her hospital badge still around her neck. She smiled at Sophie and said the afternoon light was perfect for plants. Sophie told her where the sunlight hit longest. Ryan and Kelly moved into an extended stay motel near the highway. My mother told relatives they were between blessings, but the story did not travel the same way anymore. Too many people had seen the keypad flash red. Too many people had heard the word no from someone who could not be guilted into changing it. Too many people had watched my mother fail to answer when Aunt Linda asked why she had lied. The family group chat became quiet for the first time in years. No one asked me for gas money that month. No one sent me bills with sad emojis. No one called me selfish for being unavailable. My silence, which they had once used as proof that I could be pushed, became a locked door they did not know how to open. One evening, Sophie and I ate grilled cheese on the floor of 1C, because our new table had not arrived yet. The curtains were up. The star bedspread was in place. Her night light glowed beside the outlet. She looked around the smaller room and said, "It feels more like ours." I swallowed before answering. "It is." On Friday, I found an envelope under my door. Inside was a photo of Sophie from the science fair, the one my father had placed on her table, and a note in his handwriting. "I should have stood beside you sooner." There was no excuse attached. No request. No mention of your mother is upset or your brother is struggling. Just one sentence. I put it in the blue folder, behind the transfer notice. Not because I needed proof anymore, but because I wanted one record that someone had finally seen what I carried. The next Sunday, Aunt Linda came by with cinnamon rolls and no questions. Mrs. Coleman brought over extra curtain hooks. Priya knocked to ask if Sophie wanted the old moon drawing she had found behind the dresser in 2A. Somehow it had slipped there when Ryan tore down her wall. Sophie held the wrinkled paper against her chest like it was alive. "Can we hang it?" she asked. I handed her the tape. She chose the wall beside the window, where the morning light touched it first. The paper was creased. One corner had a small tear, but the moon was still blue and bright, floating over a house she had drawn with two stick figures in the doorway. I stood behind her while she pressed it flat. For years, my family thought I was the spare room, the extra key, the person who would adjust when everyone else wanted more space. They thought my calm meant I had no boundary. They thought my home could be renamed while I was gone, my child's room repainted. My place at the table turned into a favor I owed them. They were wrong. I did not win because I shouted louder. I did not win because I convinced them to love me correctly. I won because I finally stopped leaving my life where people with no respect could reach it. That night, Sophie fell asleep under the blue moon drawing, the nightlight glowing gold against the wall. I stood in the doorway for a while, listening to the quiet breathing of a child who knew where she belonged. Then I closed the door softly, turned the lock, and put the key in my own pocket.